Welcome to another episode of the Finding Serenity in the Midst of Chaos podcast. Today, we're going to talk about self-sabotage. Specifically, how are you sabotaging yourself? If you're ever asked the question, how am I sabotaging myself? This is the podcast to listen to today. And we're going to specifically talk about 3 signs that you can recognize in yourself as to how you're sabotaging yourself. Hello, Ian. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thanks, Chulai. And yourself?
Marvelous, thank you.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good. This is another interesting topic. I mean, silly comment. When do we ever have uninteresting topics to talk about? Never,
exactly,
really.
Right.
It's all good stuff, and we hope it resonates with the listeners again today. So self-sabotage. How do I know I'm sabotaging myself? Yeah, there's a good question for you to start. How indeed do we know that we are doing this?
How do we know indeed? Well, you know what? It's not that obvious because it is very much of a subconscious thing. Because if we knew we were doing it, we wouldn't be doing it, would we? As obvious as that
does
sounds.
make sense. Yes, yes.
Well, I mean, there are 3 specific signs, and they are not necessarily very obvious. And when I say them to you right now, it's going to become more obvious, and you might start to recognize them yourself in your life. And this specifically relates to you if you are one of the people that I work with, kind of the person I work with, ambitious, who's, constantly looking for the next, achievement, next job title. You're an ambitious person. This doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's great to be ambitious. It's great to have great goals and achieve great things in life. But there comes a point that we start to sabotage ourselves. And today specifically, I want to talk about those 3 signs and maybe how to recognize and what to do when we recognize them. And then maybe in the next few episodes, we can talk about why that happens and all of that. But let's just go with today's. Okay. So how do we know?
Yeah.
Well, first sign is that you refuse to celebrate something good in your life. Like you achieve a great thing, something that, you all of a sudden, great, something good happened. You achieved a great milestone in your life. Instead of celebrating, you start to sabotage yourself. I know a person that I won't reveal the name or the identity. This person was doing a great talk, and she basically, the night before the talk, she was invited to this kind of gathering to talk about and to mingle with the people who is also doing a similar talk.
Yeah.
And she drank so much.
Okay.
And what that means is she ended up being extremely drunk.
Yes.
And all the side effects that kind of brings, especially if you're not used to drinking very often. She drank herself to silly on that night. The next morning, literally an hour or so before her actual talk, she woke up with a great banging headache.
There's a surprise for you.
There's a surprise.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
This is one of the very great example of self-sabotage.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of you're upper limiting yourself, and where it comes from is because you probably believe that you don't deserve it. You believe that if this happens, something bigger is about to happen, and your nervous system isn't able to deal with that, and you sabotage yourself by basically drinking yourself so silly in this occasion. But any other occasions that might be that if you're supposed to give your biggest presentation, you turn up late, you don't prepare until the last minute, or something you subconsciously do to kind of mess it up, basically.
Okay, so can I just clarify here? So you're thinking this is an example where somebody had this big thing ahead of them, and I don't know, they just kind of couldn't cope. They got a little bit overawed by it, and then decided to just go and get blotto. Is it as clear cut as that or not really?
But it
Was it
is
just
essentially
a
that.
foolish thing to do? Was it just bad timing, or was
Oh
it
no, not
because
at all.
no?
This was done deliberately by your subconscious, whose main
Right.
job is to keep you safe, keep you in the familiar. And right now, what it's
Okay.
thinking is, when I'm doing something this big and bold and something that I haven't done before, it's not familiar to me. It's going to bring something bigger, and
Yeah.
therefore it's not going to keep me safe. What am I going to do? I'm not even deserving of the success this is going to bring to me. What am I going to do? I'm going to sabotage it in any way
Right.
that I can.
Okay.
And on that occasion, going out drinking and mingling with
Yeah.
older people seems like a great idea, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And of
Okay. Yeah.
course, your mind wants to keep you in those negative, small, and unhelpful thought patterns, because that's where it's familiar with. Because
Mm.
if you deeply believe that you are not deserving of that success, you're going to find to do something to sabotage yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that clarifies it.
So,
Yeah.
and then you don't get to celebrate something big like that, because you don't believe you deserve to
Mm.
celebrate in the first place.
Right. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, you never get to that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the second sign is that you feel panic instead of joy when something great happens. And this is a
Okay.
very,
Yeah.
yeah, the title ups, chasing titles we talked about, and looking for that instant gratification when you chase a title, when you gather a title. The celebration takes like about 3 seconds, if that.
Mm.
And the feeling of joy takes about 3 seconds, lasts about 3 seconds. And then after that, what do? You start to panic about, oh my God, now what's next?
Oh wow.
And then what happens is that this negative bias about constantly focusing on the negative. Now, what am I going to do? What if this doesn't last? There is before,
Okay.
what if, the fear of success has just
Yes.
already sabotaged ourselves by
Yeah.
by the example before. And
Yeah.
now fear of failure. What if this doesn't last? What if
Wow.
I will lose it? All of that sort of
Okay.
stuff. And this kind
Okay.
of essentially you're sabotaging yourself again by not celebrating,
Yes.
by not focusing on the great thing that just happened. And
Mm.
in the many episodes ago, we talked about, we write down 20 things to achieve in a day. We achieve about 17 of them. Instead of celebrating the 17 that we've just completed and accomplished, we
Yeah.
focus on the 3 that we haven't.
Yeah. Focusing on the lack or the failure
Yeah,
or what we
exactly.
haven't rather
Yeah.
than what we have. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, last couple of days, I've had some fantastic, I want to use the word breakthroughs. It's just silly things like, just getting some paperwork completed and stuff like that. So they're not life-changing breakthroughs, but there's stuff that I just really wanted to get. And I've actually had some good achievements. It's actually really been a good achievement and time. And I've actually tried to be conscious and think, look, this is what I've done. It's almost good if you've got a to-do list and you tick things off. What I tend to do is, oh, well, I've ticked those off, I'll delete them. Actually keep them there so that I can go back and look at them and actually reflect and remind myself that I've done that. So rather than
Right.
just it's that thing about what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next. Hang on a minute. What's the point in now if we're always chasing next?
Yeah.
I might have gone off the topic a little bit here, but
No,
I
it's
don't know.
true, because we gave this example many, again, episodes before, when Madonna was interviewed all those years ago. For those of you who are of the similar era would know, Madonna once was a very big pop star, and in her greater days, she was in fact chasing title after title, next single after next single, which is they're going to the number one, topping the charts, because she said as soon as that the what is the word I'm looking for, the adrenaline is worn off,
Right.
she then starts to panic, to think about what's next, because she has to continuously prove herself to the outside world that she is someone. Because if she doesn't achieve the next, then what's that going to mean about her? So So this is a real thing. We don't celebrate, we don't feel the joy, we just feel the panic, because what's going to come next? What if I lose it? What if this doesn't last? So it's a very interesting and very sneaky way of self-sabotaging, and we've got to be mindful, and it takes a lot of mindset work to even recognize something like that, and yet let alone to do anything about it. So
we've said so many times, it's about recognizing these things, isn't it? And so much is packed away in the subconscious, and we've said it today, you know, if it was in the conscious mind, you'd do something about it. Of course you would. If you're conscious of something, do it. You know, my 1-year-old's about to fall down the stairs, so I'm conscious of that. I'm going to run and grab him before he does it. You know, that's a silly example.
Well, it's a good example, because this is why children don't know what fear is yet, because they haven't experienced what's on the other side of fear, and that's why they take actions without fear, and they achieve greater things. If a 1-year-old knew how much it would hurt if he or she fell and whatever, then he wouldn't even continues to just keep going up and down and trying his best to learn to walk. But because we have that fear, and we can kind of add more fears on top of it, that is not necessarily even true. This is why we stop ourselves achieving greater things, achieving bigger things, and so forth.
Wow,
excellent. And I'm going to go to number 3 now.
Oh, okay, we're going to jump. We're coming back to number 2 then.
But we don't need to. We finished with number 2 now.
All right, fine. Okay, on we go.
So number 3, if you find yourself complaining, blaming people and situations all the time. So this is a sign you're not taking personal responsibility for your life, which means that when it's somebody else's fault, you can't, it's okay. You feel like, oh, it's okay. I haven't done this because somebody else didn't do their part. Therefore, I don't have to take responsibility. So if I don't achieve what I set out to achieve, it's not my fault. But what that means is that you're just keep putting it off, keep avoiding the situation, giving your power to the outside forces, which has in fact nothing to do with whether you achieve something or not. Yes, they may play a small part, but it is at the end of the day your responsibility to make something happen.
Well, that's pretty that's a funny contort way of it happening, isn't it? Really, in a way.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? Well, I mean, let me clarify my understanding. Do you mean we kind of feel that things are not our fault? We've seen somebody else mess up, so it's not our fault, and therefore, you know, we don't have to worry about taking responsibility either. Have I understood correctly, or
well, blaming and complaining about situations that hasn't quite worked out. So if something needs to change, you need to change it. If you remember in our corporate days, how people used to complain about so many things. Oh, this person didn't do this, and that person didn't do that. And well, have you even considered what part did you play? Did you explain the task properly? Did you communicate the timeline? Did you even say what was in your head about what you wanted done and when you wanted it done? Or even are they clear on the goals and the timing and everything else? You constantly can get into blaming others in order not to achieve that task. And this is again coming from the subconscious, and why is it self-sabotage? Because when you blame others, you don't get to take responsibility. When you're not responsible for it, it's okay. But of course it isn't okay, because you are responsible for it. You're just not stepping up to the responsibility. Yeah. And when that happens is the whole energy of blaming others and not taking responsibility. It takes away your power, because you believe that you're not deserving of the success, and therefore you're gonna do everything in your power to not deserve that success, to prove that belief. We said it before, your external reality fits with the belief. Your brain will fit your external reality with what you believe already. So it's like the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you're stupid, you're going to behave stupidly, and you're going to prove yourself. You see, I told you I'm stupid. right? So
It's a circle, isn't it?
it
Going
is a
round in
circle, and it
circles.
all comes from the deeper beliefs that you might have, and the deeper, then therefore how you act to prove that belief. So you probably are starting to wonder, listeners, it's all well and good, but how do I change this?
That's right. The good thing is we always come up with how to fix these problems most of the time, don't we? You know, that's what we're all about, helping people to, you know, we can talk about these things forever, but let's try and fix some stuff. So that's what we're going to do now.
And it's good because our podcast is mainly focusing on creating this awareness for you to become the observer of your own feelings, your own thoughts, and all the emotions that are going through as a result of, you know, whatever the situation might be. So next time, rather than blaming yourself, rather than all of a sudden starting to judge yourself, you can start to recognize and be an observer. Actually, I'm noticing that I'm in fear right now. And I'm in fear because this is something I haven't done, because this is outside of my comfort zone, and I am going to do something about it. So if you go back to the first example we gave, when we are, you know, facing this upper limit of sabotaging ourselves when there's something bigger and better outside of our comfort zone, just remembering that this is just fear acting and it's not real. Because your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined.
That's right. We've talked about that before.
We talked about that before.
It's amazing fact, but it's so key, isn't it? It really is a helpful thing to know and to bear in mind.
Yeah. And you observe that this is fear, this isn't me. You know, what we tend to do is that I am fearful. As soon as you put I am in front of something, you identified with that emotion.
Yeah.
You are not the emotion, you're just feeling the emotion. And emotion, as the name suggests, is energy in motion. So it comes through. If you allow it to go through you, it will go and go away. So I'm feeling fear. I'm not. If you say I'm fearful, then you become the fear. If you say I'm feeling fear, that's a different thing. It's the feeling. Therefore, it doesn't have to be you. And you then, as soon as you recognize that, yes, this is just fear operating, you realize it's not real. You can just reframe your thoughts. We know there's a lot of people in the same place as me, and maybe this is where I need to be right now. And you know, this talk is something I'm meant to do, and if I wasn't good enough already, I wouldn't be here. So just prepare yourself to step into that bigger thing despite the fear. You don't have to become the fear. You just recognize it, tame it if you like, and then just still go with it. And you'll find that as soon as you step onto the stage, everything will go away and you will just get into flow. But it's just having to deal with that beginning. And not identifying with it.
Well, and you know, you've picked out something really quite interesting there about I am frightened versus I feel frightened, or I feel the fear. It's very subtle, and people would say, "Oh, come on, you know, you're just being finicky with words there," but you're not, because it's really the difference between saying I am the thing, or you know, it's just what I'm feeling and it's not real, and I can deal with it. So it is actually really a big step in releasing the subconscious, you know, bringing things into the conscious mind, I guess.
Yes, it is. And you know,
I mean, that is brilliant. I think that's really good. It's subtle. It sounds, you know, subtle, but it is very key and very powerful.
It is powerful because, you know, like we said many times before, everything that you say to your subconscious, it takes it as a command. It takes it as read. It can't tell whether it's real or not. It will do whatever you say it to do. Instead of saying I am fearful, just say I feel fear right now, but it's going to pass. Whatever it say, whatever you say to itself, it will do it. And so it all starts with the awareness, noticing your thoughts, noticing what they are and how are they serving you right now. And even if it is trying to keep you safe by making you play small, you can recognize that and just say, you know what, I'm here because I already deserve to be here.
Yes.
And
yeah.
That affirmation in itself and reframing that thought will make it go away, because it's just like a frightened little child, you know, you wouldn't just go and start to be nasty to a frightened little child. You try and, it's okay, everything is fine, and I hear you, whatever. And essentially that's what you need to do to your subconscious mind and your brain to know that everything is okay and you can do this, you got this. And when you notice your thoughts, you can reframe them, you can let them pass, and you can start to focus on better thoughts. Instead of saying, I feel fear, just say, I feel excited. And sometimes fear and excitement, there's a very small, fine line between the two.
I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you mean. You know, with radio and stuff, I've talked to people that have said to me, you know, they're coming new onto the radio and whatever. Well, I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to be. I said yes, but actually, it's a healthy nerve. It's an adrenaline. It's an excited. It's a good nervousness. So actually, you might as well call it excitement.
Yes,
It is excitement, really.
It is.
It's like me. The first time I ever did a show, I could hear my heart beating in my headphones. Yeah, I got headphones on. I could hear boom, 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 going like that. I thought I'm never going to be able to speak. But of course, the jingle finishes. It's time to announce the weather, and off you go. Today's going to be sunny. It's, you know, and you're off, and that's it. You don't think about, you know, the heartbeat's gone and everything, and it's exciting. Whereas, you know, other situations are perhaps, you know, bad nervousness, depressive nervousness, whatever. I mean, we're going off the topic now, but we cover that another time. But yeah, how we actually call how accurate we are about the feeling, and if we just call it something different, it addresses our conscience. It makes our conscious mind think differently, I think. Fair comment?
It's so true. And in fact, one of my coaches call it nerve-sighted, like nervous and excited, kind of the two together.
Yeah,
because,
nice little word.
You know, where do you feel it in your body? Is it in your guts? Is it just under your heart? Is this flutter in your tummy? Whatever it might be, it's always a good sign. And often by, you know, focusing on your breathing for a couple of minutes and just focusing on this moment, you'll feel it going through your body and it's going to be fine. And just like I said, as your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined, you can start to imagine great things. You know, what will it feel like when you've done your talk, everybody's clapping or whatever, and that's going to give you that you know, excitement more on the positive side, if you like. But you know, these are all normal feelings. If you resist to them, they will continue to come up. Whereas if you acknowledge, I feel this, and that's okay, then it'll go away. There's no resistance, right?
Yes. So don't resist. And it's almost making me think, you know, treat the subconscious mind like a bit of a fool that will believe anything. You know, and tell it this is exciting, even if you're kind of saying it isn't, you know, or feeling it isn't. And I mean, that's a good little trick. You know, you think, oh, what, that won't work, surely, you know, that's nonsense, but it should do, shouldn't it?
It does. The subconscious mind is absolutely does work. I mean,
well, that's great news. I'm going to try that more.
If you just said that won't work, it definitely won't work. You've just decided.
You've decided, yeah.
You've decided. Everything that you say to yourself, exactly.
You believe, yeah.
You believe, and it will make sure that what you believe becomes your reality. And it's as simple as that. And this applies to everything that we do, but it all starts with the awareness. And maybe in a couple of weeks from now, we can talk about what causes you to you know, self-sabotage in this case.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
We've just alluded to the fact that it might be because you're in fear of achieving that success, or you're in fear of losing the success you've just achieved. What if it doesn't last? And all because this out of the comfort zone experience, and out of the comfort zone means that I am not familiar with what I'm about to do, which means it's unsafe. And if it is unsafe, I will not do it. I will do anything to sabotage that. And you can do this in the simplest of things. You know, we gave the bigger example of going to have a big talk, but it could be as little as sit, you know, taking that first step to talk to somebody, or going to your boss to ask for a pay rise, or whatever it might be, anything that is going to make you feel uncomfortable and you don't believe that you deserve it, you're going to sabotage it. So yeah. I think this is a good place to stop today, don't you?
I think I'm going to suggest we sabotage the talk for now, because time is up. So actually, I'm blaming it on the clock. The clock has sabotaged us today, but that's fair enough, because we need to, of course, come back for much more talks over the next weeks and months, as we will do. So so stay with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.